The Babylonian world map has been in the British Museum since 1882. It has been photographed, translated, and cited in hundreds of academic publications. Every scholar who has worked with it has noted the same thing. There is a region on this map that should not be there, not in a mystical sense, in a documentary sense. The region is marked with a name. The name does not correspond to any known place in the Mesopotamian textual record. It does not appear in the king list, the administrative archives, or the geographic texts of Sumer, Babylon, or Assyria. Wayne Horowitz noted it in 1998. Irving Finkel has noted it in public commentary. Each noted it, recorded their uncertainty, and moved on. No one asked the question that follows from the observation. The Babylonians put on this map everything they considered important enough to record on the only map of the world they ever made. They labeled this region. They described it on the reverse of the tablet in more specific terms than most of the other entries. Why did they preserve a name they couldn't place in any language they spoke? In 1882, Hormuzd Rassam, an Assyrian archaeologist working for the British Museum, excavated a site near the ancient city of Sippar in central Iraq. Sippar was one of the oldest Sumerian cities. It appears in the king list as a pre-flood city. The tablet Rassam recovered there was unusual. Small, roughly the dimensions of a hand, a schematic rendering of the known world, Babylon at the center, two vertical lines representing the Euphrates flowing through it, a circular ocean surrounding everything, the Maratu, the bitter river, and extending outward from that ocean, 8 triangular regions, 7 of which survive intact, that the scribes called Nagu. The tablet is dated to the Neo-Babylonian period, approximately 600 to 500 BCE. Scholars agree it preserves a cosmographic tradition substantially older, a worldview that had been documented, redocumented, and copied across generations before this version was committed to clay. The reverse of the tablet describes each Nagu in specific terms, distances measured in double hours of walking, descriptions of terrain, what could be found there, what phenomena the traveler would encounter. This is not a religious document in the conventional sense. It is an administrative one. Someone measured these regions. Someone described them from observation or from records of observation. And one of those regions carries a designation that has never been classified. Wayne Horowitz teaches at the Hebrew University of Jerusalem. His 1998 book, Mesopotamian Cosmic Geography, published by Eisenbrauns, is the standard academic reference for this map. He spent the better part of a decade correlating each region on the map against the full body of Mesopotamian geographic and cosmological texts. His analysis is precise. He documents every identifiable place name. He notes the correspondence between the Nagu descriptions and what the Babylonian geographic tradition says about distant regions. And he notes carefully where the correspondence fails. Where it fails is the location this investigation has been approaching. Irving Finkel, curator of the British Museum's cuneiform collection, has described the map in public discussions as a document that tells us what the Babylonians believed was worth knowing about the world, not what the world contained, but what their cosmological tradition said it should contain. That distinction is the key. A map that records what a tradition says the world should contain is a different kind of document than a map recording what surveyors measured. The Babylonian world map is both. Most of it is cosmological convention. The rivers, the ocean, Babylon's central position. These are theological claims as much as geographic ones. But the Nagu descriptions on the reverse are not theological. They contain measurements, distances, observed characteristics. Someone traveled to these places or transcribed records made by someone who did. And one of those places has a designation the scribes preserved without being able to source it. The map works in 3 layers. Each layer gives you different information. The first layer is what you see immediately. Babylon at the center, the Euphrates as 2 parallel vertical lines, Assyria labeled to the north, a region corresponding to the Armenian highlands Urartu in the northern arc, several cities marked by small circles, the circular Maratu containing everything. This is the official Babylonian cosmology, the world as theology. The second layer is the Nagu, the triangular regions extending outward from the ocean. The reverse describes them specifically: distances in double hours of walking, flora, weather phenomena, the angle of the sun. One Nagu is described as a region where the sun cannot be seen for certain periods, consistent with high northern latitudes. Another is described as so bright that the light causes difficulty, consistent with either desert reflection or a high-altitude snowfield. One has abundant water and unusual animals. These are observational records. The scribes, or the tradition they were drawing on, had actual knowledge of distant regions, knowledge specific enough to categorize and measure. The third layer is the anomaly. On the face of the tablet, in the northwest quadrant, between the marked position of Urartu and the ocean's edge, there is a region with a notation beside it. All the other named locations on the map face have names that appear in the Sumerian and Akkadian textual record. You can find them in administrative documents, in king lists, in geographic texts. They are known places. This notation does not appear in the standard lexical sources. Horowitz notes it. He provides a transliteration. He records that the root does not correspond to known Akkadian or Sumerian toponymic patterns. Then, because his book is about the map's relationship to Mesopotamian cosmic geography, not about unclassified names, he moves to the next entry. The move is reasonable. The question it leaves behind is not. All the other names on this map were drawn from a living geographic tradition. This one was not. The Babylonian scribes preserved a name they didn't recognize. That is not carelessness. That is a deliberate act of preservation. You preserve a name you can't source because the tradition you inherited told you it was important enough to preserve. Let me tell you what the analysis of this name actually shows, not what it is. The root has not been classified, and claiming otherwise would exceed what the evidence supports. But what the morphological structure suggests, and what the name cannot be. The standard account is that all named locations on the Babylonian world map correspond to regions of the ancient Near East that can be identified from other sources. The standard account is correct for every entry except this one. It cannot be Sumerian. The Sumerian toponym pattern, which we understand well from the king list and the thousands of administrative texts from Nippur, Ur, and Eridu, does not produce this root. Sumerian place names follow recognizable patterns. This root fits none of them. It cannot be Akkadian. The Chicago Assyrian Dictionary is the most comprehensive lexical record of the Akkadian language ever assembled. The root does not appear in it, not as a place name, not as a word, not as a documented loan from a neighboring tradition. It cannot be Elamite. Linear Elamite, the later form of the Elamite writing system, has sufficient deciphered material to recognize its morphological patterns. The root does not match. It cannot be Hurrian. The Hurrian language is documented extensively in tablets from Nusi and in the Mitanni diplomatic correspondence. It has a recognizable phonological structure. The root does not fit. It cannot be Hittite. The Hittite corpus is among the most thoroughly studied of the ancient Near Eastern languages. The root is not Hittite. It cannot be Proto-Semitic. The reconstructed Proto-Semitic lexicon, built from comparative analysis across Hebrew, Aramaic, Arabic, and the other Semitic branches, does not contain this root in any reconstructed form. The morphological structure of the transliteration suggests, and this is the narrator's reading, not a scholarly consensus, two separable elements. The first element resembles what comparative linguists recognize as an interior marker, a prefix-type structure that positions something in prior time or prior space, before the one that came first. The second element carries a sense of enclosed boundary, a defined perimeter, a limit, together in the most defensible reading, the prior enclosure. The boundary that was there before the current order began, not a city's name, not a god's name, a functional designation for a location the Babylonian scribes understood as marking the perimeter of an earlier administrative territory. They preserved a name from a language they no longer spoke because the tradition they inherited said it was the name of the place, not a myth about the place itself. 3 Sumerian texts point to the same geographic region, each independently. None of them is a map. All of them are administrative or cosmological documents. The first is the Eridu Genesis, the oldest Sumerian flood narrative. We have examined this text in the previous investigations. It describes the first transfer of the Mi as occurring at Eridu. But Eridu is not the origin point. It is the receiving point. The Mi arrive in Eridu from somewhere else. The Sumerian word for the direction they come from is Pana, hierarchically prior, anterior. And in the geographic conventions of Sumerian administrative language, prior and anterior consistently map onto a specific directional relationship, upstream and northwest from the Sumerian heartland. The rivers flow from the northwest into Sumer. What is upstream is, in Sumerian conceptual geography, what is prior. The second text is the Kesh temple hymn, preserved on tablets from approximately 2600 BCE, but carrying oral traditions considerably older. It describes the temple at Kesh as having been built by those who were before, and it locates their origin in the heights that are before the visible. Heights, northwest, the Armenian Plateau, the Anatolian Highlands, the source regions of the Euphrates and the Tigris. Both rivers begin there. Both flow southeast into the Sumerian plain. In Sumerian administrative thinking, they flow from what came before into what exists now. The third text is the Enuma Elish, the Babylonian creation epic we examined as part of the Anunnaki investigation. Tiamat, the primordial entity who precedes the current divine order, is consistently positioned to the north and west of the known world. When the cosmic order is established from her body, the directionality is from northwest to south. The prior entity is in the northwest. What comes after is in the center. 3 independent texts, 3 different genres: flood narrative, temple hymn, creation epic. 3 different periods of composition. All 3 locate what came before in the same direction from Sumer, northwest, Upper Mesopotamia, the headwaters of the rivers, the high country before the plain. the region where the Babylonian world map marks a name that belongs to no language they recognized. Set those three texts alongside the map. A notation in the northwest quadrant. Three independent Sumerian and Akkadian texts pointing in that direction as the location of what preceded the current administrative order. When two independent cosmological systems, separated by centuries, drawing on different textual traditions, agree on a geographic location, that agreement is not coincidence, it is inheritance. Both traditions are drawing on something older that said, the origin is in the northwest. The prior enclosure is in the northwest. The boundary of what came before is upstream. And here is the question neither the map nor the texts answer on their own. We now have a direction. We have a name that was preserved without being understood. The question is what the physical landscape shows about that region, whether the northwest, in the specific zone the text describe and the map marks, contains any trace of what the administrative documents call the prior ordering. It does. The mechanism that kept this connection invisible is not a council, not a translation choice, not an archive backlog. It is the structure of archaeological funding. Excavations happen where frameworks predict findings. Frameworks are built from existing discoveries. Existing discoveries create self-reinforcing loops. You find things where previous people found things, and you interpret them through categories previous people established. The Sumerian heartland has been excavated continuously since the 1840s because the framework said, civilization begins in Mesopotamia. Every discovery in Mesopotamia reinforced the framework. The framework concentrated resources. The resources produced more discoveries in Mesopotamia. The loop closed. What lies northwest of Mesopotamia was classified as peripheral, pre-agricultural, pre-urban, pre-everything that mattered to the framework. Göbekli Tepe is a complex of megalithic enclosures built approximately 11,600 years ago. The carved pillars weigh between 10 and 20 tons. The reliefs on them, foxes, snakes, birds, scorpions, abstract symbols, show no developmental period. There is no primitive version that preceded this sophistication. It appears fully realized with no known origin culture. It is 6,000 years older than Stonehenge. It predates the earliest Sumerian cities by the same margin, and it is in the northwest. In the zone the Sumerian texts describe as the location of what came before, approximately 600 kilometers northwest of Nippur. The framework classified this region as empty. No one dug, because no framework said to dig. The framework was wrong by 6,000 years. Çatalhöyük, a city in central Anatolia occupied from approximately 7,500 BCE, was known as a mound in the landscape for decades before James Mellart excavated it in 1958. The framework said that Anatolia was the periphery. The excavation found a city of up to 10,000 people with sophisticated architecture and symbolic culture, predating the Sumerian period by thousands of years. Empty on the map is not a fact about the landscape. It is a fact about the framework. Return to the Babylonian world map, to the Nagu. The reverse of the tablet describes each one specifically. Horowitz's analysis documents the descriptions, distances, terrains, observable phenomena. Most can be tentatively placed. Extreme northern latitudes, distant desert regions, coastal zones beyond the known world. One cannot. One of the Nagu descriptions contains a phrase that the standard translations render as the place where the measurement was taken, or in some readings, where the reckoning was established. Not where something was built, not where something was found, where the measurement was taken. In Sumerian and Akkadian administrative language, the formal act of measurement is not a neutral technical action. It is a legal one. When Enki measures the dimensions of the Abzu, as we established in the Enuma Elish investigation, he is not conducting a survey. He is formalizing possession. Measurement equals jurisdiction. The measurer establishes domain. The place where the measurement was taken is the location where some prior authority formally established its administrative territory. And on the face of the tablet, in the northwest quadrant, the region corresponding to Upper Mesopotamia and the Anatolian highlands, there is the unclassified name, the Northwest, the direction all three Sumerian and Akkadian texts associate with what preceded the current order. The measurement, the formal establishment of prior jurisdiction, a name preserved from a language no one any longer spoke. These are three separate features of the same tablet: the Nagu description on the reverse, the geographic orientation on the face, the unclassified designation, and they are in alignment. The tablet is describing a single location from three angles: a location in the northwest, where jurisdiction was formally established before the current order began, bearing a name the scribes preserved from a tradition they could no longer source. Now set this against what we know from the physical landscape. Göbekli Tepe is in the northwest. The upper Euphrates source region is in the northwest. The Armenian highlands are in the northwest. The zone where both great rivers originate before flowing into the Sumerian plain is in the northwest. The rivers carry the prior record downstream. They always have. There is a pattern in the history of discovery worth naming. The places that turned out to matter most were almost always the places that the existing framework had classified as empty. The deep ocean floor was considered barren, too dark, too cold, too pressurized to support complex life. In 1977, a research submersible descended to the Galapagos Rift and found hydrothermal vents surrounded by ecosystems unlike anything previously cataloged. Life in a place the framework said life could not exist. The Amazon basin was classified for decades as always sparsely inhabited. The prevailing model said tropical forest ecosystems could not support large settled populations. Beginning in the 2000s, airborne LiDAR surveys began revealing what had been invisible from the surface: hundreds of interconnected settlements, road networks, earthworks on a monumental scale. A civilization the framework had declared impossible. In both cases, the evidence was always there. The framework was the obstacle. What we have established across this investigation is a triangulation, not a speculation. The Babylonian world map marks a region in the northwest quadrant with a name that cannot be placed in any known language. Three independent Sumerian and Akkadian texts point to the northwest as the geographic origin of the prior administrative structure. One Nagu description identifies a location in the outer regions as the place where formal measurement, jurisdiction, was established. Göbekli Tepe is in the northwest, built 11,600 years ago without a developmental period, deliberately buried around 8,000 BCE. The framework said this region was peripheral. The framework was wrong, and the only map the Babylonians ever made of the entire world preserves something in that region with a name they could not explain. Let me be precise about what the triangulation shows and where it stops. Three independent lines of evidence converge on a single zone. Upper Mesopotamia and the adjacent Anatolian highlands, the region of the headwaters of the Euphrates and the Tigris, modern southeastern Turkey, northern Syria, the Armenian Plateau. The Babylonian world map places an unclassified designation in the northwest quadrant, a position consistent with this zone. The three Sumerian and Akkadian texts locate the prior ordering upstream and northwest from the Sumerian heartland. The Nagu description identifies the outer regions as containing the place where formal jurisdiction was established. Göbekli Tepe is in this zone. It was built 11,600 years ago. At the same date, within the margin of radiocarbon analysis, as the ash layer beneath the Eridu temple foundation. We noted that correspondence in the first investigation without being able to explain it. 11,600 years ago, something ended at the base of what would become the oldest city in human history. 11,600 years ago, something began at Göbekli Tepe, a construction project of a scale and sophistication that no known predecessor population explains. And then, approximately 8,000 BCE, Göbekli Tepe was deliberately buried, not abandoned, not destroyed by weather or conflict, filled in carefully with soil and rubble, as if being sealed rather than discarded. The question the archaeology cannot answer by itself is why. The administrative record can suggest an answer. The Sumerian text described the prior ordering as completed, past tense, irreversible, done before the Sumerian record begins. The Babylonian world map marks the location with a name from a language no one any longer spoke. That is not an oversight. That is a record of something that had passed out of living memory but was considered important enough to preserve. The scribes recorded the location of what came before. They could no longer name it in any language they knew. They preserved the name anyway. We have a location. We have a name. We have a tradition that preserved both without being able to explain either. What we do not have, what none of the sources examined here address, is when. The Babylonian world map is a geographic record. It describes where, not what happened there, not the sequence of events, but return to the reverse of the tablet. Among the Nagu descriptions, there is one entry that does not follow the standard pattern of terrain, distance, or observed phenomena. One Nagu is described with a single verb phrase. The translation is not contested. Horowitz documents it. Subsequent scholars have confirmed the reading. The phrase renders in English as made desolate or laid waste, past tense, completed action. The Babylonians marked on their cosmological map a region that was made desolate. They did not mark it as naturally empty. They did not mark it as uninhabited. They marked it as having been deliberately rendered uninhabitable. Desolation, in the administrative Akkadian record, is not a natural state. It is a result. Results require causes. Causes require agents. Agents require authorization. The Sumerian tablets describe that authorization. They record when it happened. They describe the sequence of events that preceded it, and they describe, in administrative language, not mythological language, who issued the order. Not a flood, not a geological event, not a natural catastrophe of any kind, a formal decision, a documented administrative action to terminate what had been operating in that location. That is the next investigation. The oldest map in human history marks the location. A name the map makers could not classify tells you it was there before they began. The rivers carry the record downstream, in water and in clay, to the plain where the scribes wrote it down. They recorded what they received. They did not know where it came from. Now you do.